Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fair Life. This is Andrew McKee, and wow, yes, it is a lot of changes, a lot of changes. Um, I am at a new location. I'm going to be here for the next month and a half. So I'm over in Belleville, Texas. So being able to hang out here and before the Louisiana Ren Fair in November and December. So I'm planning on getting a lot of work done. Also going to test out my portable gear for streaming online. So no, yeah, hopefully all of that work I've done over the last few years will finally pay off because now I am traveling full time. No more stone wall background for me because I don't live there anymore. So a lot of changes going on. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Certainly a little more echoey in this large room that I'm in currently. But hey, Jan and Kurt and Kevin and Dan and Chris and Kathy, thanks for joining. And yeah, it is. It's been an interesting few weeks to say the least. Unfortunately, Alicia is on the road right now, so she's not going to be able to join. But hopefully she'll be back next week. I'll talk to her later and catch up and see what's all going on with her, and we'll make some plans for then. But yeah, it is being on the road is always crazy. Hey, Tanya, great to see you. But yeah, it is really interesting. A week ago I was at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and that is well, it's the largest sci-fi fantasy convention in the country. And it is ridiculous. I mean, it's around 80,000 people in downtown Atlanta. So it is pretty crazy. And it was a good year. I mean, because I was trying to finish up with the move, I got there a couple of days later than I normally do. So I was really pushing it. I mean, I had a lot of gigs the next day. So I got in that night, Friday night, and then Saturday just played music all day. And Sunday for most of the day too. So it was a bit of a whirlwind compared to what I'm used to, but still a lot of fun. And one of the interesting things is that we've seen the fall of interest in CDs, where people, I mean, they don't really sell cars with CD players anymore. It's starting to go the way of the 8-track tape or the cassette tape afterwards. So yeah, I mean, there still is some demand for CDs, but it keeps waning a little bit. What we've done is we've started selling what we call musical pins, and it's quite interesting. It's just a lapel pin with a cool saying or design on it that is linked to one of our CDs, and it's with it when you buy it, you get a digital download of the CD as well. So you get music with the pin. And that is one of the things I'm going to be working on for the next couple of months, getting some of those just for my solo stuff and getting that going. So hopefully I'll have a lot of news week to week to share with you about what's going on. And I'm probably going to be asking your opinion about pin designs too. So be prepared for that. Bring your game faces. And hey, Jessica. Oh, Jessica, yeah. I got in so late I missed saying hello to Jessica, and she used to sell CDs for us back in the day at Dragon Con, and now she does cons on her own because she is a published author. So she, yeah, that I'm sorry I missed you because that would have been really cool. But next time for sure. But yeah, I am on the road full time. I am have no actual no actual permanent address. So I put my stuff in storage, and I'm traveling for the next year. It's going to be a great experiment to see how I like it. I've never really pushed it this far, so we shall see. But yeah. I mean, there'll be a lot of stuff to talk about. Right, Dan? Yeah, no fixed abode. I have a storage unit, and that is it. Now, the good news is I save a lot of money on bills and rent, and that's just going to be savings for the year. So that's great. But yeah, it is going to be an interesting endeavor. Now, I was planning on traveling for most of the year anyway. So this really doesn't change things too much. This year I was on the road for about a little over 50% of the year. I was looking to try to push it to over 70% next year anyway. So this just kind of forced me to try to look at going to more like 90+% and going that route. And so far it's looking good. So next year is booking up pretty well, and I'm still plugging a few holes right now, but there's definitely going to be some interesting places. So if you think of some place you would like me to see me play, let me know. I mean, shoot me a message if you have any suggestions, because I am currently looking, and I'll be traveling around a lot, especially in the Midwest and the North and the Northeast and the East, and of course always the South. So just stopping in and doing a house concert that's at one of your places, or if you know a pub that you think would work well for me, or a coffee shop or something like that, just let me know. It'll be I can maybe try to fit that in. So we'll see. But it's an interesting time. The move was crazy. I ended up purging and throwing away a lot more than I probably thought I would. But that's probably not a bad thing, because I had too much stuff. And it was I got rid of over 90% of what I own. And I think it was time, honestly. I was holding on to a lot of stuff that I really shouldn't have. Stuff from my childhood, stuff from, memorabilia that didn't really mean much. And this was a good way to get rid of it. So yeah, I recommend it. I mean, if it's always good to have a purge now and then, and I have not had one in a long time, so it was past time, definitely. Now, I'm also I just kind of got settled today, so I'm managed to test out everything, and hopefully no problems with sound or everything. I think it's a little. Well, the lighting is a little interesting here. I'm going to be playing with that over the next week, trying to tweak that. But yeah, let me know if you see any problems or hear any problems with the setup, because this is going to be a serious few weeks of testing going on. I would appreciate that. Yeah, this is... Wow. I'm also, since I'm going to work on a lot of music and spend a lot of the next month and month and a half doing a lot of that, working on online things. I'm going to post on Patreon, multiple Patreons tonight, and get that process going. And it's going to be interesting. It's been a whirlwind the last few weeks, but now things have stabilized. I think I can start getting a solid routine and get well organized, and that's the plan. A lot of stuff going on with with fairs in general. This is going to be a short show because this is more of a test show, but the fairs there are more fairs this weekend than I think I've ever seen. It is pretty crazy. I have a list of 24 different fairs, if you can believe it. Yeah, 24. Going on this weekend. And that's just the ones I know about, the main ones. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. I'm kind of, I guess I attribute a lot of that to the fact that COVID, several fairs closed. Some of the small ones kind of, just shuttered up and said, no, we're done. And there were a few that were going to start, and they held off for a few years and waited. And so in 2022, 2023, you have a lot of new fairs, and even some that started this year. And that's kind of what you're seeing. I think last year and the year before, there was more like 19 or 20 fairs as opposed to 24. Now it's a lot more. This is kind of the crazy time. You have a month of a lot of fairs. So yeah, it is. There's probably a fair near you. Let's put it that way. So something to look out for. The other thing I've noticed is it is really interesting that a lot of the websites and how different they all are. I don't know if any of you have noticed this before, but some of the websites have really, some of the smaller fairs, of course, their websites are not that good. And some of them some of them are, well, some of them don't have websites. They just stick with a Facebook page, some of the small ones. But a lot of them have some problems, glitches, issues. They haven't been completely updated. And I've even noticed some of the larger fairs have some weird glitches like that too, which is really surprising. I'm wondering if websites are starting to become less and less important and less of a priority for businesses in general. I don't know. I mean, generally the websites have started to just become known as online business cards. You know, you have to have one, but that's it. People don't normally go to them too much. So maybe that's the issue. I don't know. It's really a fascinating thing because I've just noticed a lot of weirdness with the websites. Also, a lot of them are not well organized. That's the other thing. If you're a patron, it's actually hard to find stuff. Things like where the fair actually is. Sometimes that's very hard to do on a website, which you'd think would be the most important thing. You know, we want you to come, here's where it is. But yeah, they don't often have that. And or if they do, it's really buried and hard to find. So yeah, it's really an interesting phenomenon I'm starting to pay attention to and see. The other interesting thing is the themes. Several years ago, themes started becoming a thing at fairs. I want to say in the around the 2010s is when themes started to become a thing with the larger fairs, and then they kept going. More fairs started adopting them, and then the smaller fairs that were more than a couple of weekends started doing it too, and it became fairly ubiquitous. Most all fairs have themed weekends now, as long as they're multiple weekends. And the other interesting thing is that they've stolen the themes. Some fairs are creative and they'll come up with their own theme names, but others, they just take them from the larger fairs and they don't even worry about it. It's if I see Shamrocks and Shenanigans one more time, oh my God, it is, they use that for so many fairs now. I cannot even begin to tell you. So yeah, Dan is saying that he went to Bucks County Run Fair in Pennsylvania last weekend. Yeah, and their first year. Yeah, I think that's kind of happening in the post-COVID world. I mean, you're getting a lot of first-year fairs starting up. Last year you had a lot, and this year you have a lot. And you had a few in 2022. But you're kind of hitting a new, well, pardon the pun, but a new renaissance in creating Ren fairs. So I think that might continue. And I think that's very common. My experience is that that tends to happen every decade or two. You get that sort of huge influx of new fairs for whatever reason, maybe the market or the economy or whatever. Yeah, Dan, I totally, some of these smaller fairs are actually really good. They have a great feeling because larger fairs, while they have a lot of stuff, it's almost impossible to see everything in one day. And it's a little overwhelming, especially if you have anxiety about large crowds. But if you want to be able to just see all the different performers in one day and make sure you see every single booth at one day, and you get to see everything and no stress. They still have good food. I mean, some of the smaller fairs, they've started doing the food trucks and bringing some of those in for some really interesting food combinations. And it works really well as long as it's done tastefully and carefully. Yeah, I've been fairly impressed with some of the ones I've been to, and they do a good job. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Dan. Really some good smaller fairs, something to check out. I do recommend it. Yeah, anyway, like I said, this is going to be a small test week for Fair Life, and sorry to make it abbreviated, but this is more just to see if this setup works, because I really just had enough time to get the bare minimum for the show together and get it set up. It was close. I was a little worried I would not have time to make it work, but I just did. Yeah. But I think I've got everything set up and it is looking good, at least relatively stable, and I can tweak it. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're talking about fairs doing food trucks or if you're talking about my setup now because of the delay. But either way, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Anyway, let me jump right into the fair list and get that out of the way because, like I said, it is 24 fairs. So yeah, let's just jump on that real quick. You can see it. It's yeah, all over the place, right? Pretty crazy. It's just yeah, all over the Northeast and the Midwest and a little in the South and the West and yeah, it's going to continue as it gets colder. You're going to see more and more and all over the place. It's gonna you're gonna see a lot more in the South jumping in, and that's yeah big when it starts to get a little cooler down here because you're it's still hitting around in the 90s down in central Texas. So and in the rest of the South you get a little bit of that too. So 80s and 90s. So they're waiting a few more weeks until that comes down. So let's jump on the full list here. Yeah, here we go, full screen, and let's see. Let's get the pet-friendly version. Yay! Okay, here we go. Okay, jumping out in Carver, Massachusetts, we have the King Richard's Fair, and this is the 3rd out of 8 weekends, and the theme is Fandom in the Kingdom Weekend, which, if you read the description, is Harry Potter weekend. That's exactly what it's all about. All the events and all the special things is Harry Potter, but they call it Fandom in the Kingdom Weekend. I guess I just don't want to get sued. But yeah, that's the gist. Then jumping over to Connecticut, we have the Connecticut Renaissance Fair, and this is in Lebanon, Connecticut. And this is also the 3rd out of 8 weekends. And the theme is Roses and Romance Weekend. Then jumping over to New York, woohoo! We have the New York Renaissance Fair in Tuxedo Park. And that is weekend 5 out of 9. Then jumping down to Pennsylvania, we have the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair in Manheim, Pennsylvania, and it is the 5th out of 11 weekends because Pennsylvania always does a ridiculous number of weekends. They used to do more, if you believe it or not. And it is Wizarding Weekend, so again, Harry Potter. Then jumping over in Western Pennsylvania, we have the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival in West Newton, Pennsylvania. This is the 4th out of 6 weekends, and it is Pirate Invasion Weekend. So yeah. Then jumping over to, I just almost skipped this one. This is in New Jersey, the Sparta Renaissance Festival in Sparta, New Jersey. And this is the 2nd out of 3 weekends. Then jumping down to Maryland, we have the Maryland Renaissance Festival. And just like Sparta, I have a lot of friends playing there. This is in Annapolis, Maryland, and it is the 4th out of 9 weekends. And it is Pirate Adventure Weekend. Then going down to Virginia, we have one of those new fairs that we were talking about. This is the Old Dominion Fantasy and Medieval Fair. This was started last year, and this is in Thaxton, Virginia. And it's just the one weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Then going down to Georgia, we have the 4F Renaissance Festival in Danielsville, Georgia. Now, this is the 2nd out of 4 weekends, so it actually goes on for a little while, and it's been going on. This is the 3rd year of that. It started in 2022. Then jumping up to Ohio, we have the Ohio Renaissance Festival. This is in Waynesville, Ohio, and it is the 3rd out of 9 weekends, and it is Pirates Weekend, because everybody loves pirates. Then jumping up to Michigan, we have the Michigan Renaissance Festival in Holly, Michigan, and this is the 5th out of 7 weekends. And we got one that, just like I was saying earlier, Shamrocks and Shenanigans is the theme because everybody's using that one. Then jumping over to Wisconsin, we have we have the Old Falls Elizabethan Renaissance Fair in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. I practice this one, Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. It's just the one weekend, and this is its first year in 2024. And also in its first year, nearby in Milwaukee, is the Argren Fair, and it's just one day on Sunday. So just on the Sunday. That's kind of interesting. So one day fair. Then jumping down to Illinois, we have the Marseille Renaissance Fair in Marseille, Illinois. And that's also one day, but just Saturday. So yeah, very different for these one-day fairs, I guess. Yeah, definitely different. Okay, then let's jump down to, let's go over to Minnesota and go over to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival and Shakopee, Minnesota. This is the 5th out of 8 weekends. And the theme is wine, chocolate, and romance. So yes, that is for the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. Then down to Iowa, we have the Renaissance Fair of Sleepy Hollow in Des Moines. And that's the last weekend, the 3 out of 3. And the theme is pirates, steampunks, and pets. I'll give them some extra points for being original, a little bit original on that. Then jumping down to Missouri, we have the St. Louis Renaissance Festival in Forrestal, Missouri. And this is the 1st out of 6 weekends, and the theme is Highland Fling. And jumping over to Kansas, kind of Missouri, but still it's in Kansas is the Kansas City Renaissance Festival and Bonner Springs, Kansas. And it is weekend 3 of 7. And the theme is Whirlwind Romance. So obviously a play on words there. Instead of, whirl, it's a whirlwind romance. Okay. Then jumping down to Arkansas, we have the Arkansas Renaissance Festival. This is another one that started this year in 2024 in Mount Vernon, Arkansas. I have a few friends playing there. It is the 3rd out of 5 weekends, and it is Viking Celtic Invasion weekend. Okay, then jumping over to Santa Fe, New Mexico, we have the Santa Fe Renaissance Fair, and it's just the one weekend. That's been going on for a good number of years. What is it, like 16, 17 years or so? And yeah, it's always been one weekend. They've just been happy with what they have. They no interest in growing. Some fairs are like that. It's kind of interesting how they approach it. Some don't really want to grow. They just like having a weekend of fair. And it's a fascinating approach. Okay, jumping up to Montana, we have the Magpie Renaissance Fair in Three Forks, Montana. Now, this is one of those fairs that started last year in 2023, so this is its 2nd year, and it's just the one weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Then, let's see, we have, going over to Oregon, we have the Shrewsbury Renaissance Fair in Monmouth, Oregon. And it's also one weekend. But this fair has been going on for a few decades. So, not a new one. Going down to California, we have the Northern California Renaissance Fair in Hollister, California. And this is the 1st out of 6 weekends. And the theme is, obviously opening weekend. Then jumping down to the Maritime Festival, this is more of a pirate festival. Actually, I should have put a pirate flag here. That was a mistake I made, but I'll try to fix that. But it's been going on for a long time. Since 1984, actually, in Dana Point, California. And it's a 3-day weekend, Friday through Sunday. And they just have all of these pirate-themed events and for kids and adults and fun. And they've been going on for so long that they must be doing something right. So definitely worth including. And that is number 24. So there you go. Woo! We made it. And Kathy says went to the Pittsburgh fair on Saturday. Oh, okay. I'd love to hear what you thought of that. Was it a good fair? That'd be interesting. And it should say fair. That was a typo. But was that any good? Because I haven't been to the Pittsburgh fair. I've heard good things about it, but I've never been. So it's been on my list of things to try out. Always a good question on that. So, yeah. But But yeah, that's the list. So yeah, I'm gonna just probably call it here. And thanks for bearing with me on this sort of test version of Fair Life. I'll have a much beefier show next week with a lot more time to put stuff into it. But I was more worried about the internet connection and the setup and everything else. But I think we're good. Everything seems very stable. In fact, I haven't missed a single frame or skipped a single frame on the transmit, which that's pretty rare. So I'm really thinking I set up everything really nice. The laptop and everything is going great. So I think it's a good test. Yeah, definitely. So thanks everyone. And I'll see you next week with a lot more info. And I'll be able to update you a lot more about, well, not just a fair day or a fair week, but a fair life. So take care. Bye.